We're back. We have Zach Britton. Appreciate his time. We'll have Darren O'Day shortly after, and then that will conclude Zooms for the first day. Zach, thanks again. Who has the first question for Mr. Britton? Sweeney Murdy, quick to the draw. Please unmute.
Zach, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
You're probably not used to setting up for O'Day. It was the other way around, right?
Right.
A lot of the conversation we have about the increase in workload for pitchers going from the 60 game to 162 seems to focus on the starters. Is it as big a deal for somebody like you to go from 20 appearances to 60? Is there some sort of adjustment you have to make to try and accommodate for that?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure because we haven't, we've never done this before. This off season, I've just prepared to throw a normal workload. But I think it's going to be one of those things that, the communication with Boone and Matt Blake and Hark, I think that's just going to be really important this year just to see how we're bouncing back as we get into the later months of the year. But I've prepared myself to throw, a regular workload. And then, obviously adding pieces like a Justin Wilson, I think is going to help spread the load around. You got, guys now, 5 guys that are capable, I think, of throwing any inning, having that ability to, interchange innings with certain guys, I think is great in limiting workload if that's what we need to do. But we haven't had any conversations, about it yet.
They're talking about like the daily routine of having to check with you, look at all the measurable stuff and look at, ask you how you feel. Is that something that goes on at a pretty high level during the course of a normal season anyway? Do you think it might have to be just ramped up a little bit to make sure that there's no fatigue setting in?
Yeah, I think so. I know that we measure guys, release points and things like that could, I think, I'm not 100% sure on it, but I think a lot of those can give red flags to when a guy's fatiguing or there could be, an injury coming up. So we already do that. And, I think that we'll just be more focused on it as we go forward. It's not something that I look at. It's something that, the front office is looking at. And then if there's issues, they'll come and communicate with you, asking if you feel okay, things like that. And I think this year, I'm sure that communication will maybe be a little bit more so. But like I said, I think we're all just preparing for a full workload. And then the communication as we go through the season will be important. Okay, you're welcome.
Pete Caldera, please unmute. You have the next question.
Zach, from a pitching style standpoint, you and O'Day are obviously complete opposites, but I think you said before when you were teammates in Baltimore that he had quite an influence on you, and I was wondering if you could share some of that with us today.
Yeah, played with Darren for a long time. He was there when I was making the transition from starting to relieving. Basically everything I know about the process and the routine of being a reliever, I learned from Darren. He really took me under his wing. And I feel like, his career, he's been very underappreciated. You look at his numbers, his career, this guy's been an elite reliever for a long time. I kind of just soaked up all the information he had for me. And even him pitching in front of me as a closer, I don't think the years that I had, a lot of that was because of the work that he was doing in front of me. So we have a good bond. I'm really excited that he's here. I think he can help out a lot of our young pitchers, not just relievers, a lot of young players in general. He was, one of the biggest leaders in that clubhouse when we had some good years in Baltimore, taking young players like Manny Machado under his wing, actually. And I think he carries a lot of respect everywhere he goes. So I think adding him to our club was a great add, by Cash.
Take another for Ron Blum. Ron, please unmute.
Hey, Zach. In your role with the association, how concerned do you think players are with 3 straight years and the drop in the average salary? And in your view, is the association need major changes in the bargaining for the next agreement?
Yeah, I think, there's always concern when, the average salary is dropping. I think you look at circumstances, though, obviously with, is that taken into account the prorated salaries last year? I would have to look at these numbers, obviously, before I really get into it much. But when it comes to, future bargaining, which would be, hopefully at some time through this year and going into next season, definitely issues that we would like to change. And I think, MLB probably has issues that they would like to change too. But, to the best of my knowledge, we're going to work through those things. And, we want to continue playing. Baseball's been doing really well. So, As of right now, we haven't had those talks, so it's kind of premature to get into it. But I don't see any reason why we wouldn't work something out.
Thank you.
Take another from Lindsay Adler. Lindsay, go ahead.
Hey, Zach. Garrett was talking about how you guys have a group chat and how it's been more active in recent weeks. And he said you guys have been talking, about some regular, teammate stuff, but then a lot of union stuff has also been coming up. Sort of what has been the tone, and sort of do you find that is coming up more and more as you're entering the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we formed that chat just to keep everyone as informed as much as we can. Obviously guys are a lot more invested in things that have been going on. I think the player interest in, negotiations or, the CBA or things that we've done in protocols, I think players are very interested in, all teams. And it's nice. It's good that guys are interested in getting information and are aware of what's going on. But in that chat, like Garrett said, I mean, we're talking about other things as well, but it was just a platform for us to be able to communicate with our teammates. And, it's nice. Everyone's got questions and everyone's involved, and that's why we did it.
And you're obviously very involved with the union. I mean, how much work and how much time does that sort of take up, either in the off season or going into the season?
Yeah, the last two, off seasons, and then that period, when last spring got, delayed or canceled. It's been a lot of time on the phone and going through things and going through protocols, but it's important. I want guys to feel like they're in a safe environment when they get here. It's definitely stressful at times, but we have a good group of guys that make the job easier. So I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect.
Marley Rivera, please unmute. You have the next question.
Hi, Zach. I hope you and your family are well. Zach, when you look at, I'm trying to find a better word than incestuous, but just this kind of AL East trades, right? Like, you have been here just between you guys. How difficult is that sometimes to have to face former teammates that then become teammates? It just really, what is that like, trades in the AL East? I'm specifically talking about O'Day and obviously Otto going to the Red Sox now.
Yeah, it's weird. When I came from Baltimore, and I think one of our first road trips, we faced the Orioles, and I was pitching against, Adam Jones, a guy I played with my whole career and things like that. It's tough because other than in spring training, you never do that. And I think for a second, it takes, you got to realize, hey, I'm on a new team now, and my job's to get these guys out. And then, we can be friends off the field. And it took a little bit, for me. I'd been with the Orioles for a really long time. Darren's had more experience going to multiple teams before. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for him. And then, with Otto, it's, it's kind of the same thing. He's been on a couple of different teams now. So I think he knows how to handle it. And I think there's that sense that you always want to do well against your former team. And I don't expect, for Otto, for that to change. I think he's going to be, gunning for us when he's out there. So, it's weird, but if you've done it before, I don't think there's much of an issue. You're welcome.
Take a couple more. Brian Hoke, you have the next question.
Hey, Zach. Aaron was in here before. He was telling us a little bit about that blue barn where you guys did your throwing today. They're calling it the gas station. Just wondering what that setup is like, what kind of new stuff, anything different in there that you had to deal with?
I think it's just an updated version of the things that we've had. You still have the Rapsodos in there. You're going to have high-speed cameras all over the place, a bunch of new monitors. It's just kind of I think it just got built. I'm not really sure. I haven't been at this complex that often, but just a nice clean setup where, you can leave the cameras. So everything's already fixed in place. So you don't really got to go in there and adjust. And, it's good if you're looking for some feedback on certain things, delivery or pitch movement. I mean, there's no better place to be than in the, what is it? The gas, what are they called? The gas station.
How does that compare to your setup at home?
It's similar, just, obviously not as big. I got one mount in there, and then, a couple guys came in there, helped me set up the high-speed camera. So, just updated technology than what I have 2 years ago. It just seems like if you're trying to keep up with the newest technology, I mean, you're never going to. So, they've spent, a good amount of money in there, but I think it's great, especially when the younger guys are at this facility, to be able to see themselves, and get instant feedback. It is really important when you're a younger player.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Andy Martino, please unmute.
Hi, Zach. on back to the union stuff for a second. Going into the negotiations this year, what do you personally see as some of the most important issues? And just in terms of your personal role in it, Cashman, who's obviously management, has complimented you a number of times for your ability to kind of communicate and bridge both sides in a non-confrontational way. Do you want to have a role like that in a larger sense where it can get kind of ugly sometimes? You see yourself as somebody who can help kind of communicate with both sides?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important, whether it's an uncomfortable conversation with the front office. I think it's important to have that dialogue back and forth. I think sometimes the issues that we have is because there's lack of communication. We may not always agree, but communicating, I think, is the best way to meet a neutral point in whatever the discussion is. So having that communication, I think, for me, is important. I know how they're feeling. They know how I'm feeling. And so it's been a good relationship. I think Cash has been great. And that makes it a lot easier for me. As for the issues going forward, I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, we could sit here for hours and talk about it, but I think the biggest thing for players is creating more competition. I think we want to see more teams out there, creating good teams and not concerned about, draft picks. And you're seeing that there's a handful of organizations that you guys know right now that aren't putting a great product on the field. And we'd like to see all teams putting, good teams out on the field and creating just a more competitive league. I think that's important. That's what fans want to see. They want to see, their team out there with fielding great teams every year and not necessarily concerned about the win-loss record when it comes to draft picks. So that's one of the topics. More competition throughout the league, I think, is one of the top priorities for us.
Thank you.
Sure.
Take a final question from James Wagner.
Hey, Zach, how's it going? Hope you and the family and the kids are doing well. Obviously, I knew you played with Domingo before 2 years ago, and he sat out last year with a suspension. Is that something like, does he need to talk to you guys as teammates, or something you need to see from him, a change personally? How do you guys, receive him back as a teammate?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't think he, owes anything to me. I think it's, off the field stuff that he needs to take care of. I think, sometimes you don't get to control who your teammates are. And then that's the situation. I don't agree with what he did. I don't think it has any place in the game or off the field at all. So I don't think he owes anything to me. My job is to go out there and pitch and do my job. So that's kind of what my concern is right there. But he doesn't owe me anything. I think that's something that he's going to have to deal with on his own and make better choices going forward.
Thanks.
Zach, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. And we'll have Darren O'Day here momentarily. All right. Thanks,
guys.
Mi gente, están disfrutando. Lamentablemente hemos llegado a la parte final de la máquina deportiva. Como saben, el tiempo es corto en la televisión. En las cámaras, Philly Carmona, Domingo Rodríguez en la producción, O'Neill trabajando y el chino cobrando. Será hasta entonces. Siga vacilando lo nuevo de Moreno Negrón y esto va en exclusiva para la máquina deportiva. ¡Zumba! Moreno Negrón. Bueno, que se preparen, porque ahora te voy a montar tu pila. Sí, tu pila. Óyeme la historia que yo te voy a decir. Se trata de un cuero que yo traje de Baní. La pasé a buscar, le dije vamos allí. Ella me respondió, yo no me monto ahí. Le brindé una cerveza, después le brindé dos. Luego del picapollo me dijo, ok, tato.
¿Cómo?
Ok, tato.
Dale otra vez. Suena otra vaina.
Dale, mambo. Siga vacilando lo nuevo de Moreno Negrón y esto va en exclusiva para la máquina deportiva. Esa mujer nada más piensa en eso. Yo no me explico. Moreno Negrón. Se estaba cotizando y yo estaba sudando. No se daba cuenta que me estaba sofocando. Porque hoy dijo que no. Contigo yo no mango, pero en menos de un minuto me estaba chupando el mango.
Wow.